Hi, I'm Bob Saul from Lithofin, and in the series of cleaning, protecting and maintaining, today we're going to have a look at impregnating a natural stone or a granite worktop. So you may have seen in the other video on the deep cleaning of the granite worktops, because before we apply any type of impregnator, we would want the top to be fully dry and released of all moisture. So if you've had a look at that video where we're basically using power cleans to degrease the surface or remove any water marking from the drainer areas, after that clean, I would want a good sort of 48 hours maybe, just to let everything dry off completely. And depending on the porosity of your worktop, it might just take that little bit longer. If it looks damp, don't seal it, let it dry back fully to release all that moisture. So we've got this top now, it's fully dry, it's fully clean, and we're going to be using the product Lithofin MN Stain Stop, which is a solvent-based impregnator, which basically will saturate into the stone. It'll leave no finish, and that, once cured, will give us full water and oil repellency, and maintaining this top a lot easier, and it'll keep oil-bound stains on the surface to then be able to clean those off a lot easier. So the kit we're going to use today is a pair of gloves. I've got a white towel which I'm going to use for buffing the top and removing the excess. I've got a sponge for the application. I've got a white pad if I need to use that, just to give it a final buff at the end. And I've got a clean tray that I'm going to pour the product into and sit the bottle on as well, because once you start to apply, you don't want to sit your bottle on the top because that can sometimes leave you little ring marks. So I would always keep the tray on top of the top and work through in sections. Now, preparation wise, when you are sealing the worktop, you are going to be applying the product quite generously and keeping it sort of generously wet. And what you don't want to do is, when you come to doing your edges, or if you're doing an island, you don't want little drops dropping onto your floor. So you might have natural stone floors, you might have ceramics. Obviously where your sink cutout is, you don't want this product, so just the occasional dripping onto stainless sinks or any type of ceramic sink, because it can leave a mark, and then we don't want to have that issue. So prepping wise, I will literally, along the front of the worktops, I will generally have some spare towels or dust sheets that I will fold up, and then I'll lay those on the overlap just underneath on the floor. So if there's occasional drip, just so we're not going to have that sitting on a different type of floor, that will be caught. Hopefully we're going to minimize that, but when you start to work these edges, you sometimes get a little run and it may drip, and I don't want it dripping onto anything that it shouldn't. So with the sink, again, you could just take a couple of towels and maybe lay those into the sink. Or if you're really worried, you might put a bit of plastic in there, just run that up the sink and then just bead tape it around the top of the sink. So if you do get any little drips that run down, into the drainers, it's not going to cause you a problem, either your client or if it's yourselves at home, that's not going to cause you a problem. Okay, so MN Stain Stop, we'll give that a little shake. And we're going to, like I say, apply. You can do a small test if you want to in a discrete area first to start. And if you're happy with that, we're basically going to pour the products into a tray. Not too much. I mean, with the granite tops, they are fairly dense, quite hard. So the product will sit up and almost look wet on this granite. If you've got more porous tops, marbles, maybe limestones even, or some of the granites can be a little bit more porous, it's going to start to sink in, so you can apply more product. Okay, so literally we are going to put that sponge in, got a pair of gloves on, and we are going to wet out a section. Now, if you've got joins, maybe you've got a corner, then a long length, and then another corner, you might have some resin joins, and you can work to those, so you're not trying to control a whole set of worktops. So work them in sections, and again, we're just going to wet those out lightly but generously. Now don't worry about foaming. Everybody will talk to me about you know, getting foaming and bubbles. This is an impregnator. We are going to remove the excess. You are not trying to give it a fine finish and leave it with a wet look finish for it to dry in. That will cause you problems. It'll be smeary. I will do a video on excess and reactivating that excess at a later date. And we can have a look at that if you ever have that problem. But just run that into the drainers with the corner of the sponge. And obviously if you're doing a section that's installed, you can run that round the sink edge. Okay, and with the sink edge, just obviously where that edge is, you might want to just tuck that underneath, because you'll have a section that runs back to the sink. So you can just run your sponge underneath, and that's where protecting that sink sort of comes in, and taping it up maybe in the sink, just so you can take it over that little lip that returns. Because a lot of the time when you're cleaning or this is running down, that will run down the edge, it will it'll go back on itself. Now if you haven't sealed that return, what happens is that moisture runs across, goes down, it then hangs around on that edge, and if the underside is not sealed, it will absorb that, and that will take it into the actual worktop. And over time, what you find is sometimes you will get a darker mark, almost like a grease stain, which is around your drainer, and that basically can back up, and that's actually coming from underneath where it hasn't been sealed. So if when we're cleaning that back, get it clean as you can, leave it to dry as long as you can, and that may sometimes dry back. You can then look at under sealing that edge, and obviously just check, make sure you might have a silicone bead under there as well. Just make sure there's no failure in that, because again, that can be another thing that can cause your moisture to basically go back on itself, and then it comes through the worktop. Everybody's trying to clean the face. It's not on the face, it's come up underneath that lip. So again, just run that underneath in that scenario where you've got your sink, and you get everything covered. Now, the harder the stone, the longer I'm going to leave these products on. You're giving it an opportunity to take in as much product as possible. So if you literally keep this on for 30 seconds or a minute, I see some people just wiping it over with a cloth, and it's had, you know, 30 seconds. It's not going to absorb the product in as much as it can if you keep this wet for maybe 20, 25 minutes even on the very hard stones. Maybe 10, 15 minutes on standard stones. You're keeping it wet. Like I say, it has that opportunity to draw as much product as it can, and we know then that you're saturating the stone. Obviously, for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you're doing, move the product just around with your sponge. Again, don't worry about the foaming. That's not a problem. The foaming is not a problem. Just keep moving the product, because in some cases where you've got more porous stones, you sometimes leave a swipe like this. You're doing other areas, and actually that can sink in and almost show your workings, almost like a roller with paint. So you go across the wall, it's a little heavier on one section, and it can stay there and sink in and then dry like that. So if you keep it moving, keep it active almost, okay, you're not going to have any of those problems. And we're generously but evenly just letting this soak in. If it does soak in, add a little bit more. Okay, add that little bit more, just keep it moving, I'd rather have it generous than under applied, because again, we can have some issues with under application rather than over. So we won't keep this wet for 20 minutes. We'll assume that this is now had its 20 minutes. You're moving it around every 2-3 minutes, include your edges, include around the sink, under the edge. And literally now we are going to remove the excess. So we can turn the sponge maybe and take off as much as we can with that. Now, well, obviously, if we've got other sections to do, you can actually squeeze this sponge out. Again, don't worry about that foaming. That's not an issue. So we've taken off as much as we can. We're now going to take our white towel. Okay, the importance of a white towel is that if you use a blue one, I don't want any blue worktops or red ones with red worktops, which we've had before. So white, because obviously this is a solvent, if it takes the dye out the towels, you're going to start to remove the excess. Okay, now it will state to remove the excess fully. Again, run your fingers into those drainers, just push down into those drainers, drag that back onto the top, and then you can turn the towel and we can start to buff it. Now, again, a lot of people will, I've got a nice sort of even shiny finish here, Do not leave it like that. Okay, that looks great, and people expect that that will just dry in, it'll sink in. It won't, it'll just sit on the top. It leaves you a siloxane on the surface, which becomes a little bit sticky and then can make it more difficult to maintain. So although we've got this nice shiny wet look finish, I want to remove that, and I want to carry on buffing. Carry on buffing till it's fully dry. It'll be touch dry. Okay, you just start to see it coming in now. Turn your towel. Just keep turning that towel and you will remove any. Now we're back to the shine, the mechanical shine of our granite. Turn the towel and just take out any last remaining streaks that you might see. Again, just run back through those drainers. If anything's going to sit round the edges, round your drainers, again under that lip, and you can just see from the towel now, we've just got a few little streaks. Just turn the towel, fresh bit of towel, and buff those away. If you've got large sections, get a couple of towels, take most of it off with the first one, and then use the second one just to finish this off. Now, I can take gloves off now, and what we're left with is a touch dry top. Okay, the product has gone into the top. It's not on the surface. It's lined the capillaries of the stone, and will give us our best performance because we've given it a saturation to repel water and oil. All we've got to do now is, ideally, I'd leave this sort of good. Try and keep the water off it for a good sort of 72 hours. Just let that fully cure as much as it can, and then all we've got to do is maintain it. So in the next video, we'll have a look at maintaining your worktops on a daily basis, the products you can use on a daily basis, and products for occasional deep cleans. Any problems with the application of MN Stain Stop? Just give us a call. If you're unsure which product to use or the application of it, you contact us via the website, or you can call us on the technical number, which is 01962 732 126. The details will follow. Give us a call before you do it if you're unsure of anything. We'll have a chat with you and make this a very easy application. Thank you.